Well, the Trump administration puts out a new frontman. Stephen Miller's performance on the Sunday morning talk shows, it's got everybody talking, but for all the wrong reasons. Then new pressure on National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, that amid allegations that he spoke with the Russians before he was even sworn into office. Washington Post White House bureau chief joins us with the very latest. Also, President Trump says his rollback of regulations will jolt the economy, but we'll show you how it could actually hurt the very people he says he's trying to help. Evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you for joining us this Monday night, and we begin this evening with a wild ride on the Sunday morning talk shows. That thanks to a senior White House advisor, Stephen Miller, senior in maybe name only. He's 31, and he was put out largely to discuss the travel ban and the court battle over said ban, but he would end up commenting on just about everything else under the sun. His boss, the president, apparently was thrilled with his performance, and this is, of course, the tweet that basically backs that up. Congratulations, Stephen Miller, on representing me this morning on the various Sunday shows. Great job. Well, we're going to let you judge for yourself. Here are some of the highlights and lowlights of, frankly, something that left a lot of people that do what I do for a living slack-jawed.
Do you feel like you and your staff there that you're in control of events at the White House?
I think to say that we're in control would be a substantial understatement. We have equal branches of government in this country. The judiciary is not supreme. There's no such thing as judicial supremacy. What the judges did, both at the ninth and at the district level, was to take power for themselves that belonged squarely in the hands of the President of the United States.
Stephen, the three judges say you're flat wrong.
No, the three judges made a broad, overreaching statement. This is an ideological disagreement between those who believe we should have borders and should have controls, and those who believe there should be no borders and no controls. This is a judicial usurpation of power. The end result of this, though, is that our opponents, the media, and the whole world will soon see, as we begin to take further actions, that the powers of the president to protect our country are very substantial and will not be questioned. And the bottom line is the president's powers in this area represent the apex of executive authority. We will have unquestioned military strength beyond anything anybody can imagine. We have a president who has done more in 3 weeks than most presidents have done in an entire administration. Saying that we stand with our ally, having the two men appear on camera worldwide to all of planet Earth, was a statement that will be understood very well by North Korea. I'm not going to make a comment on that. I don't have any information on it. I do want to say that Sean Spicer, as always, is 100% correct, and that what he said is true and important, and I agree with it.
So then you are making a comment on it.
I'm not going to make any new comment. It is a fact, and you will not deny it, that there are massive numbers of non-citizens in this country who are registered to vote. That is a scandal. We should stop the presses. That's the story we should be talking about, and I'm prepared to go on any show, anywhere, anytime, and repeat it and say the President of the United States is correct 100%.
Stop the presses. Miller spoke about that widespread voter fraud scheme where people were bussed into New Hampshire to vote. PolitiFact says that is, and as they only say, a pants-on-fire lie. New Hampshire's former Attorney General, prominent Republican, by the way, named Tom Rath, tweeted this after hearing what Stephen Miller said. "Let me be as unequivocal as possible. Allegations of voter fraud in New Hampshire are baseless, without any merit. It's shameful to spread these fantasies." Again, from a prominent Republican in New Hampshire who has certified elections. And we also wanted to give you some background on the guy you just saw there, Mr. Miller. He has strong and controversial opinions on things like race and immigration, writing once the following: Democrats continue to fuel the destructive vision of a powerful, racist white oppressor from which they need to protect black voters in order to keep their lock on that vote. Worshipping at the altar of multiculturalism undermines American culture. These Politico profile goes on to explain his thoughts on an iconic writer and poet who was awarded with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Quote, Maya Angelou, in Miller's mind, was a leftist full of racial paranoia who shouldn't be allowed to give the opening address at the start of a school year. Here's something else Mr. Miller has put pen to paper on. In a column called Sorry Feminists, he wrote that the gender pay gap was actually because of women working fewer hours and choosing lower paying professions. Sorry feminists, he writes, women already have equal rights in this country. He wrote, sorry feminists, hate to break this good news to you. Let me bring in our panel who I'm sure have a few things to say. Jeannie Zaino, professor of political science at Iota College, also senior advisor at the consulting firm Applied Techonomics. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Now, I was flipping between, I saw a little bit of this week, and I had a 10-year-old saying, what's wrong with this guy, Dad? You know, and he's not paying attention. I said, he's really there's a word, I couldn't say it to him, and I can't say it on TV, but my God, what a, ugh. And then I see him on Meet the Press and Face the Nation, and it doubled and tripled down, and he's talking about planet Earth, that Spicer, by the way, 100% correct. Let's not even get into all the factual stuff about everything, right? Exactly. I think I counted him saying the word I about 48 times. He was speaking, he almost third personed it. He talked about that we will not question. It will not be questioned. You are not to ask any questions, any of you people, and basically the Judiciary Committee should turn in the robes and just ask the president what to do. It was the most stunningly off-putting, bizarre performances, plural, I've seen in one day. And I've seen some guys do some damage to careers, but never in such a concerted fashion. I'm not alone here, am I?
You are not alone. It was absolutely stunning for anybody who watched it, and to see the compilation that you just showed, for him to say over and over again that the president shall not be and will not be questioned, and talk about this enormous power that the president has, is like nothing we've ever heard in the United States.
And his enemy, the press.
And his enemy, the press, where we have co-equal branches of government. But I think the most stunning part of it was that after this horrific performance, which Republicans and Democrats alike were stunned by how bad it was, you had the president tweeting out what a terrific job he did. Our only hope is that President Trump said that without actually having watched the tapes yet. Because now, as he watches these things, he's got to be thinking, this is not the face you want of the administration. You certainly don't want this guy out on any talk show, let alone all of the Sunday talk shows representing the Trump administration.
And Dom, you think, we've made jokes about Kellyanne Conway having a bad week and Sean Spicer being, and we'll get to some Saturday Night Live stuff in a little while, a punchline. They should be giving, lecture classes compared to what I just saw. I mean, you have some appreciation for what they go through versus this, right? I mean.
Well, Richard, I really do want to apologize to this gentleman from the bottom of my heart for every kid when he was in school that beat him up and took his lunch money, and now he's angry at the world as a grown man, and he's 31 years of age, and he's saying, nah, look at me. That's what we just watched.
Oh, you're completely right.
I know I'm right. Normally, I think we agree on this. Normally, we wouldn't even listen to a clown like this, let's be honest. But the scary part is that he represents the president of the United States. He is the one that the president's team put up to be on television. You have to understand, we all look at that young man and says he needs help. The president was probably high-fiving him after the interviews. Trump watched all of those interviews, and he approved of every single thing that that young man said.
But just one thing, and I want to get Andrew's take on this. I'm not kidding. If an assemblyman in New York or a city councilman's press sec did that to them on the local Sunday shows, they'd be put on warning right now. And he's the president's voice. And more than a voice, Andrew, this guy reportedly was the guy who put pen to paper on the travel ban. Mm-hmm. He's the one who went around House leadership and made their staff sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, to basically get this out. He's not a talking head only. He apparently is in the room with Bannon crafting policy.
I keep thinking, the old expression when you talk about somebody who's drunk the Kool-Aid, somebody who's really down with whatever the program is, and they'll just
regurgitate. You're going to make a Jonestown thing, are you?
No, I'm going to say that watching Miller was like watching the Kool-Aid talking. I mean, he didn't just drink the Kool-Aid. He is the concentrated, syrupy sap at the bottom of the glass that is the Kool-Aid when there's not enough water in there. And because of that, the lack of humanity, it almost felt like, in his responses, that this was just cold policy, not actually dealing with human beings, that this is just the way it is, and the president shall not be questioned, was so disheartening and really, I think, hurt the arguments that he was following or that he was trying to make. Having said that, because he is the Kool-Aid, this isn't going to hurt Trump's supporters. This isn't going to hurt the 40% who still say they support President Trump.
Except, Andrew, don't you think, you mentioned humanity, it's a great word. Also humility. Listen, I mean, the egos in Washington can rival any locker room in any professional sports team in terms of the arrogance. But that said, the amount of times he spoke like he was the government and that his boss wasn't a president of America, but basically someone that was divine from the heavens, and his absence of understanding how civics work. I mean, forget what he said was off-putting. It was completely wrong.
Who's going to call him on any of those points you just made? His
But don't
boss,
you
who
think-
doesn't
but
seem to
don't
have
you
any
think
sense
the
of civics or
40%,
any sense
Andrew,
of...
and the numbers keep going down. New numbers came out today with the approval ratings or disapproval ratings reaching higher and higher numbers. Somebody inside that place is, guys, it's now not just unforced errors. There's not enough time on, Saturday Night Live to parody us.
We're
becoming punchlines.
And let's just say, who's going to have to respond to this? For one person, it's Neil Gorsuch, who the poor guy is going before the Senate Judiciary Committee in a short period of time. He is going to get asked to respond to every single one of these statements. What a horrific position to put that man in, let alone the rest of the representatives of the administration who now have to follow this man and either support what he said or refute it. It's an awfully uncomfortable position to be in, and it makes absolutely no sense strategically. They could have come out with an executive order on the travel ban, a new one, and avoided all this, taken this guy off and put him behind the scenes where he deserves to be. He is not a spokesperson for anyone, not a spokesman for the dog catcher down the street, let alone the president of the United States at 31 years old without an ounce of experience to be there.
And the image that you kept getting from him from those conversations Sunday morning was he's perfectly fine being the guy behind the curtain pulling the strings, which how many of those are there in this administration? And could they be as creepy as Steve Bannon and Steve Miller? Come on.
And there's one thing if he says, and Republicans say, I don't care if you like him, you like us, tough. We won, you lost, we're going to run it our way. We got the House, we got the Senate, we got the White House. But there were Republicans that, in Legion, went after him for what he said about the voter fraud between New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And again, what are you trying to prove? You won, stop, right? Then secondly, the amount of times where he says no one's allowed to question, the amount of Republicans. Look what happened to Jason Chaffetz, all right? The House Republican leader of the Oversight Committee, okay? He's getting heckled in town hall meetings because they're like, you're not questioning this stuff? They're going to force Republicans' hands where they can't just be quiet, don't say anything, and hope this all gets away and they pass what they want. They're making life difficult for fellow Republicans.
But they're going to jam through as much of their agenda as they can in the meantime before the worm turns. I know we're going to get into some of the regulations a little bit later. Other changes that's not what people necessarily voted on. They're going to ram that stuff home before the public opinion worm begins to turn.
I think it's already turning, though, Andrew, but we shall see. All right, coming up next, new reports that the president is none too happy with this guy, Michael Flynn, and they are, quote-unquote, knives out for the National Security Advisor, Washington Post White House bureau chief. He joins us next.